Hey, what's up, players? Shikara and I back again, and we're going to do another video in our series, Pop, 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 another server drop. And today we're going to tackle Skynet and have a good time with that one. It's pretty difficult. It's got a little bit more advanced stuff. If you're not familiar with the Pop, Pop, Pop series, basically I use CTFs, capture the flag environments, to teach basic hacking concepts. And we want to make sure that you don't turn into a script kiddie, so we actually go over the different commands, the methodology, why we're doing it, why we're running particular switches, those sort of things, so that you have full knowledge of what you're doing. And I do approach it in a way that you don't have to watch my other videos to get good content out of this one. So I'll be repeating some things that I've done before, such as talk about ports and things like that. But regardless, it's essentially, we're assuming that you're a first-time viewer of this, and we're going to go from there. I think it's a great way to learn hacking techniques. Do keep in mind, CTFs are not always true to life. In the real world, it will be a little bit different. But these are great to practice your different tools and techniques and methods, and to understand exactly how these different operating systems work, and all that kind of good stuff. So let's get popping. So on this one here, we have a machine that's up and running, and it's going to the Try Hack Me. I love this site for all my different CTFs, and this one in particular is called Skynet, and got a cool Terminator theme there. Love me some Terminator. And I've already started the machine. Here's the IP address, and I've already started a port scan, because usually it takes a little time, but let me explain what's going on here. So a port scan, essentially, if you're not familiar, in short summary, a port is a way into a machine, another computer. So if I wanted to connect to a web server, I would either be connecting to something that's listening either on port 80 or port 443, more than likely. And there's 65,535 ports. And not all of them are used, or not all of them are common, I guess you could say. But there is a top 1024, I guess, that you would say common ports. And things like HTTP, SSH, those sort of things, those are typically what you're going to see on those. And a port scanner will actually scan to see if any of those ports are open. And also we'll try to find out what services may be running on those particular ports, because that's going to be our way in, hopefully, to the machine, is we can find out the surface level, the attack surface of the machine, and then hopefully get in from there. So in this case here, we did an Nmap scan. Nmap is a tool to do port scanning. The -N, or TAC-N, I say TAC every time, but that basically says don't do DNS resolution, so it kind of speeds it up a tad, not very much, but a little bit. The -PN says, hey, Nmap, the host machine, or I'm sorry, the target machine is up and running and alive, so don't bother doing any pinging. And the reason I do that is because I come across some VMs or some machines that disable ICMP, and it will kind of, put a stop on your Nmap scan. So typically I just don't even ping for it. We're just going to assume that the host is up and running and alive. The -A is called aggressive mode in Nmap, and it does 4 different things. One thing it does is it does an SV scan, which is a version scan. And what it does is it says, I'm going to probe based on a file of signatures I have, and whatever software is running on the port that we find open, if it responds in a certain way, we can tell you with good degree of certainty that it's this version of this software. That's what that does. Then it runs a -O, which is an operating system scan. It tells me with good reliability what operating system we're dealing with. In this case, it looks like Ubuntu. And then it does a SC. Nmap has a scripting engine to make it into an exploitation tool as well. But if you don't want to do anything that's going to be intrusive or take anything down, there is a set of scripts for Nmap under what's called the default category, and SC will run those, and those are not considered to be intrusive. Those are always okay to run in most cases. And then lastly, it runs a trace route. Okay, so by doing that, we saw that we have a few ports open. Now I will also say this: the scan I ran here, I did not specify the ports that I needed, and I didn't add anything else additional to it. So what it did by default is it does a TCP only scan. It does not scan UDP. For that, you need an SU. And it only scanned the top 1,000 ports. If I wanted to scan all 65,535 ports, I would do -P-. In this case, I didn't really care about that. So we're going to do what we have here and mess with it. All right, so we have OpenSSH here. Port 22, looks like we got a web server on port 80. Hey, we got some mail, POP3 and IMAP. So we got a mail service of some sort running on there. Samba and 445. So 445 is typically what you would see like in Windows for SMB, and you can associate it with like when you create a shared folder on the network. Typically, you'll reach out to it with what they call UNC path / and the name of the SMB share. On Linux, to interoperate with SMB, you have what's called Samba. So it's basically saying we're dealing with SMB here. All right, so now that we got all that business, plus we got a few different other things down here, but it's all right. So first thing we'll do is we'll start off with the web page because that was open. So let's go see what we got on the web page. So we'll go ahead and navigate there. All right, Skynet, baby, yeah. See, I'm not scared of the zombie apocalypse, but I am scared of the AI Terminator Skynet apocalypse. That's totally doable. So, yeah, let's put in our obligatory Leroy Jenkins. Leroy Jenkins! And nothing happens. All right. Let's see here. All right, we got absolutely crap here. Nothing. All right. So there's really nothing there of any worth. So what we're going to do next is we're going to try to see if there's some directories. Okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to type a command, and after I run it, I'm going to explain what I'm doing. Okay? So I'm going to say go buster. I'm going to say dir. And then I'll say TACU, HTTP. And by the way, the order of this is important. Don't put the TACU before the dir. And what was the IP? I should still have it copied. There you go. So let's use a word list of /USR. And I'll explain what this is here in just a moment. And by the way, I'm on Kali, so this will be different probably for you if you're not using Kali. What was I looking up? Oh, let's see. Let's do derby. Let's do the big.txt. Awesome. All right, so what I'm running here is something called GoBuster. Let's take a look here. And actually, let me close that because there is no man page for some reason installed on here. So I'll just do manual GoBuster. And let's take a look here. So GoBuster basically is doing this. I know we have a web page and there's nothing really of worth on this page. There's a possibility, though, that there's another directory that they host. If it's a WordPress site, it may be /wp-admin. You know, if it's if they have an admin page, /admin. If they have a backup location, /backup. A lot of times, a good admin won't let you have access to these directories, but it's good to find out if any of these are there. But I don't want to sit here and go /admin and /wp-admin. I don't want to type all that nonsense in here because it takes too long. So we have a tool that will actually go ahead and do that for us in a quick succession. And I just give them a big list of directories and I say, pop them bad boys in and let's go ahead and have it scan. And whatever comes up and responds, we know it's open and ready to rock. Okay. And this is a way for us to find if there are directories. This is directory enumeration on there. So when I do GoBuster, if you do the help file, you'll see that it's not listed here, but there is a dir mode right there. And if you do a -u, that's for your URL. Keep in mind, capital U is the username. So we did a -u. We started with the word dir to put it into directory busting mode, and then we did a -u for the URL. And then we did a -w for the word list. In my case, I used the word list that was in the dir-b directory because the big.txt is usually pretty good for this. I just don't prefer dirbuster. I don't prefer running it, so it is what it is. But you can see here, it's starting to find some different ones. We actually did try this one just a second ago, but it's given us a forbidden, so I guess we could try some of the other ones here. So /AI was another one, right? Okay, that's also forbidden. And config sounds pretty interesting. Let's see what comes up with that. Anything good? No? Okay. No big deal. So we'll let that finish. It looks like it's almost done. While we're running that, let's run another command just to be efficient. So I'm going to run another command because we actually do have some SMB stuff. So I'm going to use this tool called enum for Linux. And this is great to go ahead and search for some different SMB stuff related or Samba. And what we're kind of looking for is what shares are out there. Are there any shares that are odd or different or maybe anonymous? Because sometimes if they're anonymous, they don't have to have a credential and they just get into it directly. So we're going to run all the different enumerations. So we'll just do a dash capital A, or I'm sorry, dash lowercase a against the target. So we'll say enum for Linux, and then we'll do dash A, and then the IP address, and we'll let that run. So now it's going through and looking through all that. Let's go back to our dir buster and see if anything happened. Hey, look at that. Squirrel mail. What is that? Let's check that out. See what's going on with that bad boy there. Squirrely, squirrely. All right. Hey, look at that. All right. Webmail for nuts. That's hilarious. But we don't actually have a username or password to screw with here, so really can't do anything with this yet. Well, we'll leave it here. We now know this is here. Good to go. All right, very cool. Let's come back here and see if we found anything yet with our enum for Linux. Let's see here. Target information. Looks like we got a domain and work group. There. Oh, let's see. Users. Okay, so we have a user, Miles Dyson. All right, Miles Dyson. So let's remember that. Let me keep a running tally here, some different stuff. So I know we have a Miles Dyson. That's parent. Okay, let's go back here. Oh, look at that. We got some shares. Look at that. Anonymous. Nice. So we got anonymous share. So these two are odd, but these two are normal. So this one here, Miles Dyson, personal share, that probably needs credentials. So let's try this one here because I think we can probably get in without credentials. So let's try it. So for that, we're going to use another tool. Let's go ahead and cancel this. I think we got what we needed here. Use another tool called SMB Client. So let's do attack H on that. And let's see here. We're just don't really care about this for now. Let's see. Later on, we'll probably be looking for this, hopefully. We'll see if we can find some usernames. But essentially, I can use this to connect to shares. So if I do SMB client, now for this, you're going to do a / to the right because this is what they call the UNC naming convention. It's typically what you use for shares. You would do the same thing that you do. I think in Windows it's 2 slashes to the back or to the left or whatever. So it's a little different for this, but this is what you would use, and you would put the IP address in. Oops, that's not the IP address. Put the IP address in, and then the name of the share that you want to access. So let's do that. Copy that bad boy right there, and then we'll do /anonymous. All right, now it's asking for a password, but it's anonymous, so I'm assuming no. So I'm just going to hit enter. And look at that. Bada bing, bada boom. So we got SMB popped up in this bad boy. Let's do an ls, which is to list directory in SMB. All right, got a couple things here. Attention.txt, and we got a directory called logs. Well, you can use the word get to go ahead and download any of these particular ones that you want. So we're going to go ahead and do that. But actually, before I do that, let me exit out of this. And let me navigate over to my Skynet folder. There we go. And then I'm going to go ahead and log back in. Awesome. I want to put the file in this particular folder. So I'm going to say get attention. Oh, it doesn't do. Oh, there we go. Get attention.txt. Boom. There we go. We got that. All right. Let's navigate over to the logs folder here. And let's see what we have in this bad boy. Oh, look at that. So it looks like we have only one file that actually has any content in it. And it looks like log1.txt is our Huckleberry. So let's grab that. Log1.txt. Awesome sauce. Let's go ahead and exit out of this bad boy. And let's take a look at the loot. All right, attention.txt. Let's do that first. So you can use the word cat. There's a command here where you can actually display the contents of a text file here in the terminal. So we'll say cat attention.txt. A recent system malfunction has caused various passwords to be changed. All Skynet employees are required to change their password after seeing this. Miles Dyson. All right, very cool. Let's see what the other one is. So cat log1.txt. Whoa, look at that. That, my friends, looks like a password list of some sort. And we already know Miles Dyson is a user. And we already know possibly these are passwords. Now, what I could do is manually come here and type in Miles Dyson here and then password and just go down through each one of the lists. But screw that, it takes too long. So we're going to use a tool called Burp Suite. Now, there's different ways to do this, but I was an AppSec guy before I started into the security field, so I'm familiar with Burp pretty well. So we have a Burp Suite tool, which is basically an HTTP interceptor, if you will. And Kali Linux comes with one. And what I'm going to do in this case, though, is I actually made a script for my Burp Suite. And let me show you real quick here. And all I'm doing here is running Java tac jar, but this right here where it says the tac x mx2g. I'm assigning 2 gig of RAM to Burp Suite because when we use the intruder tool to brute force things, I want to make sure there's enough juice there. So typically I would give it 4 gig, 5 gig, whatever. In this case, I think we'll be fine with what we have. But if you see me running Burp Suite this way, this is why. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and run Burp Suite that way because I prefer it. And it's going to bring up the Burp Suite Community Edition. I'm going to close this, and we're going to keep with the temporary project and use Burp defaults. Now, I'm showing you all this because I also made a documentation about this whole entire thing that I did here. And I think it may be difficult for some people to follow this portion of it. So I actually went ahead and brought it up here to show you, because if you have any confusion by reading the document, at least you visually can see what I'm getting at. So I've got this document here on the side, and also use it just in case I forget something. All right, so now we're in Burp Suite. Let's go back over here. So in Burp Suite, the first thing I usually do is come over to the intruder, and I've already have it set. So I'm sorry, not intruder, proxy. I already have it set in my options to not turn on intercept, but yours will probably be turned on by default. You can turn it off if you'd like for a moment. Under options, I always go and set intercept responses. Now, probably doesn't really mean jack on this particular exercise, but it's all good. So what we're going to do, this is the premise of it. We want to take the request coming from my browser, and when it sends it to the server, we want it to stop here first for us to kind of peruse and screw around with. Then we'll send it onto the server. So it's an interceptor. It's a proxy in between. To do that, though, you'll have to see here that we actually have to set a proxy at this address 127.0.0.180.80. So in your browser, mine will be Firefox. So in your browser, you want to go to your preferences, and you want to find where your proxy settings are, network settings, okay? So we'll go with the settings, and then this will be empty by default, but you'll fill it in like this, 127.0.0.1 and port 8080. And now we're telling Firefox, dude, everything you got sending out, send it through my proxy first, send it through Burp, and then from there, we'll send it on to the server if we so choose. And we'll hit OK. Good to go. So now everything should be going through Burp Suite. So I can go ahead and turn on my intercept, just like that. And let's come back here to Squirrel Mail. So what we're going to do is we're going to intercept this login with just fake credentials because we want to brute force Miles Dyson with the actual password. Matter of fact, we'll just use Miles Dyson in this case. Okay, we'll use Miles Dyson, and then we'll just put in a, oops, what happened? Forward that, looks like something popped up. So I'm just going to put in Wingnut. There we go. So obviously that's not the password, but I'm just going to put in Wingnut and click Login. So Burp now will intercept it, and here's the post. Here is the username, and here is the Wingnut password. We want to brute force this value right here. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to right click on this and we're going to send it to Intruder. Intruder is a way we can do brute force. We're going to turn the intercept off because we don't need that on anymore. And we're going to go over to Intruder, which will now be populated under the Positions tab right here. And you'll see things are highlighted with all kinds of weird symbols. We're going to clear by clicking clear on the right-hand side. And all we really want is this value right here. Okay, we know it's Miles Dyson because we saw that in the enum for Linux. So here we got wingnut. We obviously know that's not it. So we're going to highlight just the value, and click on Add. And what it will do is set a parameter here to say you're gonna feed me a word list, and we're gonna insert each word each time we send a request into that spot. Okay, automate it. We'll keep Sniper on because Sniper is just doing one value. If we didn't know the username, we would do Cluster Bomb right there, and we would set the username as one payload and then the password as another. So we'll go to payloads now, and we have number 1 here in a simple list. Let's go ahead and load our log1.txt. All right, so there's all the passwords. We're ready to rock. As habit, I always come in here and uncheck this. I don't know why. And we're going to start attack. It's going to tell us, hey, Burp Suite free sucks, and Burp Suite Pro should be the best. So everything's throttled essentially, but it doesn't suck. Burp Suite's awesome. But it's basically saying it's really, really slow, and get the Burp Suite Pro. And I do highly recommend that. It's a great company. I've been using them at my workplace for a long time, and I'm completely satisfied with it there. Okay, look at that. Let's see. Okay, so we got some different things. See what it's doing right here? It's sending, oops, I'm going to go to the first one. It's sending Miles Dyson, see that right there? And then it's populating that section where the password is with this. And it's, interestingly, you can see these 3240 length. You see that? But this one's different. And the status is different. Could that possibly be our password? So it may. Let's go see here. Let's try it. So the first one, right? Is that the one? Yep. Let's come back here to our squirrely mail. And let's do Miles Dyson. And we'll put in that first password that we saw, log in. Let's see here. Is that right? Let's take a look. Cyborg, Halo, Terminator. Let's verify my copy. Oop, look at that. It worked. Awesome. So I guess we can shut off our intruder. I don't need that anymore. All right, very cool. So it looks like we did access this. Let's go ahead and see what is in this. What is that? Samba password reset. So it looks like we got into his email, Miles Dyson's. And we obviously have a reset of the password, so we're hoping they'll give up the password right here for our SMB. Look at that. Oh, yeah. That's a pretty difficult password. I like it. Good job, Miles. Good job. So right there, obviously, is the password. So now that we know that, let's come on back here. And let's see. What do we want to do? Let's do SMB Client again. And this time, again, we'll do the correct way here. So let me get the IP address. There we go. And what was it? Miles Dyson, right? That was the name of the share, I believe. I think it was called Miles Dyson. But as you recall, when I did my SMB Client TAC help file, there was a TAC capital U for username. So we do want to log in as Miles Dyson. So we do a TAC capital U. And we say Miles Dyson. Just like that. And let's get it rocking. All right, it's asking for the password. Well, we do have that. Squirrely whirly mail over here. Let's grab that, copy, and let's paste it in. Boom! Look at that. Loving it, man. Loving it. All right, so we got some goodies here. Improving deep neural networks, PDF. All right, let's do the simple route here. Obviously, these PDFs are real nerdy stuff I don't know anything about, but we do have a directory. Let's navigate to that. CD notes. Let's see what's in that bad boy. Let's do an LA. Actually, I don't know if it is LA. Oh, look at that. Whew. It's a lot of stuff. Pandas. Oh, here's something interesting. Look at that. Important.txt. Must be important. Let's check it out. So let's get it. Important.txt. They tell me it's important, so I guess it is. All right. I don't think there's anything else in here. So was there any other directories? No? Okay. I think we're good. I think we got what we needed there. All right. Let's take a look and see what that's all about. Cat important. Oh, look at that. Add features to beta CMS. Ooh, so we got a content management service of some sort, or system. And look at that. That looks like a path to add to the end of the URL. Sweet. Of course, GoBuster didn't pick that up because look how odd it is. Nobody's going to have that in their word list, more than likely. So, awesome. Work on T800 model, 101 blueprints, and spend more time with the wife. That's good. It's always good. Happy wife, happy life. You know what I'm saying? All right, let's check this out then. Let's go back here. We can get out of squirrely mail here. We don't really need that, I don't think, anymore. And let's see. Let's copy this. And then we'll go to... I got to close some of these windows. Getting confused here. Okay, let's grab this one, and let's see what we got rocking at that location. All right, Miles Dyson, that's the guy from the movie who made Skynet. Okay, very cool. Let's see if there's anything interesting. Source, no, nothing really there. I mean, miles.jpg, is there steganography? I don't know. If we need to, I guess we can always, that's a path, but it doesn't really look like there's much here. But we can use GoBuster again because GoBuster can start now doing a directory bust starting from this location. So, yeah, let's do that. So we'll come back here. And let's see if I got my old GoBuster. There it is. Look at that. So we're going to add that to the mix here. All right. We're going to start our GoBuster from that location. See what happens. Nice. All right. So that's rocking and rolling. Having a good time with that. And... I don't know. I don't think there's really other things that we can mess with because, like I said, we got what we needed there. While it's running, let me go back here and just show you my document that I worked up for this. All the things that I've done so far are listed in here. So if you guys want, you can just read through it. The video sometimes helps people, but you can see I've documented everything that I've done. And here, same thing about setting up Burp Suite, right? All this other stuff here. So pretty awesome stuff. So I keep it there just in case, you know, I think there may be something that needs a little more clarification. I could always pop that up and kind of refer back to it. Hey, look at that. Administrator. Nice. Let's go see what that's all about. All right. Let's go back to our page. Let's see what's at the administrator. Oops, got 2 slashes. Kappa. Never heard of this one. So CMSs are content management systems, and they're typically, think of like WordPress, Drupal, Joomla. Those are pretty popular ones. And there's some online scanners that can scan this sort of thing for version numbers and all that kind of good stuff. But I don't know if there's one for Kappa. I don't know if I've ever heard of this one or not. But this is obviously a CMS that we have, and it's obviously running here. What we can do is we can kind of see if there's any vulnerabilities. Now, there is a website called ExploitDB, exploit database. I typically go with this one because there are some exploit databases out there that will have people upload their exploits, but a lot of times what may happen, if you don't vet the code of the actual exploit, if you don't read through it, you may see that some of these bad guys that are uploading those exploits to these databases, they're actually uploading a backdoor for your machine because they're assuming that you're not going to vet it. You're not going to vet it. You're not going to look through it to see. Exploit database has always been fairly good on this, from what I understand, is they vet it and they make sure there's no, bad honor amongst thieves type of deal where they're trying to pop you. But this is a great database to look for anything to do with CUPA. Now, if I want to keep it all in-house, I can go ahead and use a tool. Actually, let's close. We don't need this anymore. I can actually use a tool called Search Exploit, which will actually search exploit DB. So if there is any exploits for CUPA, it will show here. Hey, look at that. There is one. So CUPA CMS alert config field local remote file inclusion. Okay. So what you'll see here is you'll see this right here. There says the PHP path, this part right here. What you can do to get it to copy to your current directory so you can read through it is you can do search exploit, and then you can do -m. Actually, let's do a help file for a second. So the -m will mirror that file. So we want to do a -m, and we want to copy this location. This is not the full path to it, which is why this is a cool little shortcut to do in here. But we want to copy it here to my Skynetter folder. All right, so now we have it listed there. So let's cat it and see what this exploit's all about. All right, a lot of good stuff here. Let's scroll up. All right, so it says CMS file inclusion. So when they talk about file inclusion, typically you'll see two different ways about this. You'll have what they call local and remote file inclusion. So for example, if there is a web page and there's a parameter in the URL that says ID equals 1234. If I can go in there and get that 1234 out of there, but actually put a command like maybe I want to see their etsy/passwd file, I can input that in there, and that's typically what they would call a file inclusion. So it looks like the CUPA one has a directory called alerts, alert config field, and it looks like this URL config equals is where the actual exploit is, the vulnerability. So this is where you would drop your file inclusion right after the equal symbol. So here's some examples. All right, so this first example here is one called a remote file inclusion. You're basically saying I have a shell somewhere else and I want the actual machine that has CUPA on it to trigger that and download it and run it. And apparently, if that's the case, that's the issue that we have here, is that it will do something like that. And we can see here, this one is called local file inclusion because it's actually saying, show me the contents of etsy/passwd, which would be all of your users that are on your machine. So really, when it comes down to it, we can test it with this. Now, these ... slashes are what they call directory traversal, and they're just saying go up a directory until you get to etsy/passwd. And it doesn't really matter how many you add in there. It's going to go up as many directories until it finds etsy/passwd, right? So it looks like we need... let's see. Okay, so ours is not called CUPA, and obviously it's not called target. It's called administrator. That's where it's at. So after this portion is where alert and all the rest of the stuff happens. So all of this stuff happens after that. Okay, so let's test it and see. So let's grab this. Here we go. We'll grab that, and let's go up here and see if this is actually vulnerable to it. All right, so, whoops. So what we should see if this is vulnerable is we should see a big list of usernames and such and accounts on this machine. Whoa, look at that. Nice. All right, so it looks like it works. Good to go. Ready to rock and roll. All right. So it does have this vulnerability, so we do now know that. Very cool. So I guess what we can do is we can try to figure out how best to approach this, and we can do it with an exploit that that we'll get into in just a little bit. this one here will use PHP for this particular one. And if you guys are following along, this is where it gets maybe kind of confusing on my document because I don't know how else to explain it on my document. So let me go down to my document just to kind of outline what I'm doing here so you guys can kind of see it and compare it to something that you visibly would see. So I'm just go down a little further. So let me explain what we're trying to do here. Wow, it's farther down. Okay, there it is right there. Code. All right. And so here I kind of explain what's going on. I talk about PHP injection. In this case here, typically you'll see LFI and RFI in this case. So that's typically what it'll be called. So I kind of explain it there. And I also say, well, let's test it. Now in this case, I didn't use my browser. I just used the curl command, which is a command line version of doing web requests. And you can see it all in the channel. And you can see that gave me obviously the same results in this case here. So what I want to do is there's a reverse shell. Now reverse shells are typically a way to get a command prompt of some sort or a bash shell from a target. And what you would do is you would try to get them to invoke this reverse shell by running it somehow. You would try to get them to run it, if you will. And then on your end, on your attacking machine, you would set up something called a listener. And the listener, typically you use something like netcat, and you'll listen on a particular port. Okay? So on this one here, I point out that there is a web shell called PHP reverse shell.php. So let's go over here and show you how we do this. Okay, scroll down. All right, so I'm in my Skynetter. And why does it say Skynetter? There we go. Skynetter, and what we're going to do is we're going to copy. Now in Kali, there is this particular file, but if you didn't have Kali, you would go to Pentest Monkey cheat sheet, and it will have reverse shells listed here. The particular one we're going to be doing is this PHP one. Now this is a one-liner, but there's also some different other web shells that are listed here. But that's basically the one we're pulling is the one here from Pentest Monkey. So you can either get it there or you can just get it from Kali. So in this case, it's under web shells and under the folder called PHP. And it's called php-reverse shell.php. Now I'm already in my directory Skynetter, so all I need to do is put a dot like that to say copy it here to this directory. So now when I look at it, I see it there. Now you do have to modify something. Now before I do that, if you're using Try Hack Me, you'll have to log in with your OpenVPN. So for the catchback address, in other words, the one that we're going to catch the shell from, you would use your ton0 interface. Okay, so I'm going to grab my ton0 interface, copy that. All right, so now what we're going to do is we'll say nano, and we're going to nano that PHP shell. And you can see right here, it is the Pentest Monkey one right there. And we're going to scroll down until we get to this part right here. All right, so we see there's the IP address. It says change this. This is what you change it to, your attack machine's IP address. And I'm going to add, I don't know, let's add a 5 to the end of this one here. Awesome. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 port is what I'll be listening on. Remember that. Okay, and there's the IP. So we're good. And boom. Okay. Next thing I want to do is I want to actually host it on my own web server and then have that website actually pull it. Because if you look back at it here, you can see that from our, from this right here, this one right there, that I can actually go ahead and do the exact same thing with an external address. Now, if I run my own Apache server and I host that PHP reverse shell on my machine, I can trigger getting it and running it using this exploit that we have here. So this would then be HTTP my Apache server address / PHP reverse shell.php, right? I mean, that's essentially what's happening. So if you look down on my thing here, scroll down a little further, you'll see that's basically what I'm trying to do right there. So Python 3, TAC-M, HTTP server, and you'll see it's hosted on 8,000. But you'll notice that when I do my curl command, it does the address, the administrator alert, the whole deal there. But look at the config file here. See that? So I'm actually doing it to my port 80 of my actual address and the PHP reverse shell. But before I do that, I have to set up this listener here. So let me explain that a little bit. So I'm going to open another window over here. Too many windows open. I'm going to run a tool called netcat, and if you do attack H on this, you'll see that N is for numeric only IP addresses, which we're going to use. Lowercase l puts it in listener mode. Capital L puts it in persistent listener mode. And then V is for verbosity, however you want to say that. And then TAC P would be the port. Now in this particular case here, we're going to be actually trying to invoke the actual web shell itself. So in this case here, because we made that PHP shell, if you recall, I went in and I modified it to 12345 as the port. That's the one I want to set up. So we're going to do netcat, or NC is the name, TAC-NL-VP, whoops, not a G, 12345, and we're going to let that bad boy just sit there and just wait. Wait for the shell connection to come in. Now we're going to come back over here, and we're going to host this file. I know this is where it kind of gets confusing on my document. I try my best to explain it as good as possible because you're seeing all these different ports and these different hosts. But you can see I put it to 12345 on the netcat one because that's what I changed it to in the actual reverse shell. So I want the reverse shell to respond back to me at this port. But to actually get the PHP reverse shell over there, I have to host it and send it. So that's going to use a different port. Now I'm not going to add a port. I'm just going to use the default, in this case 8,000. So I'd still need to go ahead and connect to that one. So right here in this section here, I would actually need to connect to port 8,000 of it, okay? So that's kind of the idea. I hope that makes sense. So we got our netcat listening, ready to receive the shell. And we're going to come over here and start our Python 3 web server. And this is very handy to do. Now, when you run it, it's gonna host any file that's in this folder that I'm running it from, okay? And this happens to have our PHP one. So let me just verify what the name of it is too. Oh, it's right there, PHP reverse shell.php. So let's do Python 3 TAC-M http.server, and we'll just run it. And you can see it's running on 8,000. So basically now, because I used my ton0 address, which is this one right there, okay, right there. If I connect to this address with port 8000 / revert PHP reverse shell PHP, I'm triggering that exploit, the remote file inclusion, to say, run this on that server. So that server itself will be running it, and it hopefully will send me a shell back to here. You know what I'm saying? That's what I'm talking about. It's a way to do it. So let's try it, see what happens. All right, let's come back here to our browser. All right, so we're going to go ahead and get rid of that local file inclusion. We'll say http:// and it was that :8000 / php -reverse -shell .php. Let's hit enter, and it should hang, and it is, meaning it's got it. And now we'll come over here and look at that. Binga, binga, binga. We got a little bit of a shell going on here. We see we have a connection from that server to here. Now, this is something they call a TTY. And back in the day when they were talking about terminals, and back in the, what was it, the ARPANET days with the with the punch cards and all that kind of good stuff there. I'll just say this, and I've explained this before in some other documents. In order to get a decent, stable shell where it's not going to crash on you when you type in the wrong command or what have you, you would use a particular Python trick to be able to do that. And I think I have it. I'm pretty sure I have it in my. Let me see if I have it in my document. I'm pretty sure I do. Yep, right here. So you would do this Python tax. Actually, it's Python 3. I did that wrong, I think. No, actually, yeah, it is Python. And this one right here will go ahead and spawn a new shell. Okay, so now I've connected in, but because they actually have Python on that machine, I can run this and I can say, you know what? I don't want the shell that I got when I did this PHP reverse thing because I don't believe it's going to be that stable. It may crash. So just give me a brand new bin bash, basically, is what they're trying to do here. Bin bash being the actual shell. So we'll go ahead and copy that bad boy. And let's go over here and let's pop that in there. Awesome. So now you can see data at Skynet. And if we do an ID, we're now in as, looks like, let's see, who am I? Probably www-data. Okay. So we're www-data, which is not very privileged. And you can see here, there is no root access, which would show us 0. So we know that's not the case. So yeah, but if we look back, I forgot all about this. If we look back here, and I haven't been filling this out, but here's some questions they're asking. What is Miles' password for his emails? We know what that is now. What is the hidden directory? We found that. What is the vulnerability called? Okay, we found that. See right here, what is the user flag and what is the root flag? So that is the objectives of what we want to do. I think we can probably find the user flag because we're in as Miles Dyson. I'm guessing there's probably a file there. So let's go CD over to home. And let's verify. Yep, so we have a Miles Dyson. Let's go and pop in over there. Awesome. And we'll do an ls tac la. All right, so there it is, user.txt. So we'll go ahead and cat that, user.txt. And there's our first flag, potty pop, pop, pop. All right, so now we got the user flag, but old Miles here doesn't have any real privileges, doesn't have any root privileges at least. Interesting. Okay, so share mail. Hey, look at that. There's a backups folder. Okay, so it looks like most things are Miles Dyson, but this one is root. What if we can view? Let's see. All right, so right here, by the way, let me go over these permissions for a second in Linux if you're not familiar. The first three that you see right here, you'll see the R and the W and the X. R means read, W means write, and X means execute. This first section is for the owner of the file, who in this case is root. The next three octets, if you will, are going to be for the group that person is in, which is root. In this case, that group has read and execute, but not write privileges. And then the last one that you see here is for everybody else. And we can see we have read and execute on backups, but we don't have write capability. So we can at least read it. So let's go see what is in backups. All right, we got a backup.sh, which is a shell script, which is basically using the terminal, bash shell, and that's all it is really. And then .tgz, which is a tar file. Tar is like, if you're familiar with like zip, WinZip, for all the old school users, WinRAR. Is that still doing trial? But it's very similar to that. It's compression essentially. But yeah, tar is very common on Linux. But let's see what's in that backup sh file. So we'll cat that. We'll see what we got going on there. All right. So interesting. All right. So when you do a shell script, you start off with your little shebang there /bin bash to tell it what interpreter to use. Same thing when you're doing Python. You would point it to the Python location or whatever. So we know that's what it's doing. But it looks like it's navigating to var www.html. And then it does a tar of everything that's in there because of that wildcard. Interesting. So that wildcard is going to be where the issue probably lies right there. So this is where it gets a little confusing on my document as well. So let me go down and show you that for a second, because it's probably easier to explain it on here because I'm here visually and can show you what I'm talking about as well. So in this case here, we see that there is a wildcard. Now, what I come to the conclusion of when I'm looking at something like this, oops, where am I at? When I'm looking at something like this, I want to know, is it running once? Is this just a file that root can log into the backups folder and just run once and do a backup of everything that's in HTML? or is it on a schedule of some sort? And in Linux, the scheduling part of it is what they call a cron job. And you can view what jobs are on a machine by actually catting the etc/cron tab folder or file. So let's do that real quick and see if that's in there. So we'll say cat etc/cron tab. All right, so looking at this, what we see here is we have minutes, hours, days of the month. Is that right? Days of month? I think so. It's been a while. I forgot what the MON is. Days of week, I believe. But anyways, this is the one we're really concerned about because that's that column this one's under. So basically, every 1 minute, that script is running and root is running it. So every minute, root is running a script that backs up everything that's in the var www/html folder. Because of the wildcard that's in there, it's wide open of what it actually backs up. And we already know it's using tar, okay? Now, if we were to search for something like tar wildcard and, I don't know, exploit maybe. So we come across some articles here. Let's look at this one here. Exploiting. I like this guy, hackingarticles.in. Big props to whoever that is, Raj. Yeah, he's got some great content. I highly recommend this guy's site. Pretty good stuff. So let's see. He's doing wildcard. Interpreted. Okay, so he's doing something interesting there. Echo, file, tech help. All right, so basically, this is pretty in-depth listed here, but if you were to actually go ahead and look up, let's say, what is it? Checkpoint, I think that's called. Is it tar? I think it's called checkpoints. Because I think this is the part that's actually kind of crazy. All right, so if we look up checkpoints, we can see that there's a tac checkpoint, tac in, there's a action right here. So this action, is there a help file? Let me see if there's a help file. I don't see the help file. Let me go back to my document for a second because I do think I actually put that in there for read-in purpose. Oh, there it is. So, yeah, right here. So checkpoint action. Look at some of the actions that can be run. This is part of tar, by the way. This is a switch with tar. And it says here, execute action at every checkpoint. So in other words, if we do a checkpoint and we say after this numbered checkpoint, after number 5, after number 6 checkpoint, whatever, run this action. Well, if we want it to run immediately, I guess, you would do a checkpoint equals 1, I would suppose, right? Because the default here in this case is 10, but I kind of want to do it quickly because I only have a minute when it's running, right? We have a date, time, the cron tab was talking about that. So maybe if I did tac checkpoint 1 or equals 1, and then my checkpoint action, I can see that I can do an echo. So here's the idea. Because this tar is running as root, what if I can actually get it to echo another reverse shell? It will run the reverse shell as root, right? So in that particular command, as you can see down here, you can also do like an exec command as well, which is pretty awesome. So that would be kind of the way we'd want to do it, right? So in other words, I already had a netcat one running here. I'm going to run a different one. Let me close some of these windows here. No, don't save changes. Let's open up another window here. So I'm going to make up another port. I'm going to say NC-NLVP. We'll say 900-2. Sounds good. I'm just making these up, by the way. But there's actually a shell that we can use for netcat. If we go here to our pentest monkey. and we look up our reverse shell cheat sheet, there is a netcat one here somewhere. Here it is. That's the one we want. Right there. So what if we echoed this? And we did it within the time frame of that 1 minute. And we said, let's say we did this. Let's say we said echo this reverse shell into a file called pop.sh. Then from there, we could do a checkpoint and say after checkpoint 1, execute pop.sh. So essentially, and we'd have to do this within the var www.html folder, because that's where the cron job is the tar is actually doing all the backups from. So tar is running on that folder as root. So the principle basically is, if I can get it to echo this reverse shell into a bash shell script we'll call pop.sh, and I can set the checkpoint maybe to 1, so it's fairly quick, I would think. And then the checkpoint exec action, or whatever it was called, I could do the pop.sh one. Hopefully that makes sense. Let me go back here to this, and I'll show you what I'm talking about. So, like for instance, right here. So I'm going to echo this particular script, right? And you would change this to whatever your actual ton0 address is in this particular case, okay? So what we're going to do is this. Let's go back. Let's go back here to grab my leaf pad. There we go. And let's echo this. I'm sorry, let's copy that. And we're going to change the IP address to my IP address, which is this one. Oh, look at that, same one. Didn't change. Interesting. Right? 6.34.183. Yep. And 9002, because that's the port I'm listening on here. So that's it. This is a different reverse shell. This is not the same one that we're in as Miles on. This is a different one. So, okay, so that looks good. And all of this is the actual reverse shell itself. And we're going to go ahead, and this bracket means take all that output and put it into a file called pop.sh. Then what we would do is we use the touch command, and this one here just creates a file right in the command prompt. Excuse me. And it would be under the var www.html1 here, and we would say the checkpoint action, and we wanted to execute sh.pop.sh, because you remember, if we look back at whatever one I was on, can't find it now, but whatever one I was on, it actually, that was one of the things you could run as that executable. So we're saying, okay, now that I've made this pop.sh, I want you to run this one here, and we want to go ahead and say, after this checkpoint number, run the action. Now we have to do that in 1 minute, so we have to actually copy all of these. So let me go grab these real quick here and put them in my file here. Put a little space between them there so it's not difficult to copy and paste from. All right. So hopefully you understand the concept behind what we're trying to do here. All right, very cool. So we copy the first one. And let's go ahead and go back to our shell that we have. We're in the Skynet one. So let's go ahead and navigate over to /var/www/html. And let's do a date to find out how many seconds we're in right now. Okay, 55 seconds. All right, so in about 5 seconds, we'll start running this command here. Let's see. Date. Boom. All right, let's start it. So first, that one. Next. Come on, Ray. And that one. And then lastly, that one there. Excellent. All right, so now we just wait for the time to be done. And what we're hoping to see is a shell over on this particular one here. So again, like I said, what we're trying to do in this case here is because tar is running as a root, because of the wildcard function of it, we can essentially run these other things along with it here, where the echo commands and all that stuff here. But the checkpoints is the real key trigger. Now, there's other ways you can exploit this sort of thing with tar. I'm trying to remember the name of what they called it, requirements something, I think. But there's a few different ways that you can exploit this particular wildcard thing. But this one here was pretty well written up. All right, let's go back and check our shell. Hey, look at that. ID. Pop, pop, pop. No server drop, baby. There we go. We got ourselves root shell on the machine. Excellent. And now we can go ahead and I'm assuming let's ls/root. Yep, there it is. So we can cat /root/root.txt. Awesome. There we go. So essentially that's what happened. Is because that particular script was running every minute as root, we were able to take advantage of a vulnerability in that. And again, I would recommend, if you want to learn more about it, this guy explains a lot of the different ways you can kind of screw around with that wildcard injection one. The one we went with was this one right there, tar. Yep. So I think there's probably something similar. I can't remember. Yeah. So they kind of did something a little similar, but in this case, let's see, cron tab. Oh, they did it. So they used MS Venom to make a reverse shell. Yeah, no big deal. Okay, yeah, so it's the same thing. So they did echo, did that, and I assume they put it to a file. Yep, right there, shell.sh. And then the checkpoint action, exec, that's the one that you can run. So in this case here, we're running a shell script, and it was after checkpoint 1. And awesome, there it is. So yeah, pretty crazy. A lot of different stuff going on with this particular lab today. It went pretty long, but we did achieve it, and we did have our pop, pop, pop right here. So I hope you learned quite a bit on that. We actually went through quite a bit of different technical things, such as directory busting and Nmap scanning, but also some more advanced stuff like these exploitations, using some different things like the wildcard exploitations. And there's a variety of ways you can exploit it. This wasn't the only one, but this is a decent way to do it for this particular exercise. So I hope you guys enjoyed that. I will be posting this video plus the actual document that I showed you, so you can kind of read through it as well and see if you can kind of digest it a little bit more. And we'll do some more of these videos here shortly because I like doing them. They're fun. And it's a good way to learn good stuff here as far as like how to do just basic hacking to further your knowledge and further your career that you're at. So check out my video channels on YouTube and check out all the different playlists I have. And this one in particular gets a lot of different play. But until next time, keep on popping, baby. Peace out, players.